The web of weird connects us all. The world's a strange place, but we're all one big family. You ready to get weird?
Hello and welcome back to Web of Weird. This is Tall Paul.
And this is Little J. How's it going, big brother?
It's going pretty good. We're recording quite early in the morning today.
Good morning. I know we're usually night owls, but not today. We're,
Yeah.
whatever, morning birds.
There were times we're both morning birds, yeah.
Oh, I burn the candle at both ends. I stay up late and I get up early, you know. That's, my kid gets up really early, so it's like, up and at 'em, no matter what.
Yeah.
You have to
Yep.
bear with me this recording, though, because I got a cold. You know, school just kicked up, and of course, it's like a petri dish of germs, so I got sick right away.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, if I sound like I have whiskey voice today, it's because I'm just kind of getting over that. So, yeah. How you be? How's it been this week? Anything weird happened to you this week?
Nothing too much of anything weird besides like the normal angel number of things that happen to me almost every single day. It's kind of ridiculous, but it's become kind of a norm for me, so I don't really consider that weird at this point, but that's all I really had this week. How about you?
Anything weird happened to me this week? I don't know. I think I had my head down in this 3D reality too much for me to pay attention. I was sick and then I was working both my jobs or whatever, and my classes kicked up this semester, so I was running around pulling weird soil samples out of the ground and bringing them into my class and just getting ready to do all that stuff and then talking at people for several hours a day. So is that weird? That's not weird. That's just sort of life,
That's
I
how
guess. Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's just how things work sometime. Well, we're both having like very mundane kind of weeks. Our older sister had her first major UFO sighting
Oh, I'm so
with
glad you brought that up. I
multiple
know.
UFOs.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it kind of balanced out, I guess, a little bit in that way, in that
Yeah, right?
respect.
Her
Yeah,
her
multiple.
sighting was really compelling, and she only told me about it on the text, and I haven't like actually gotten verbally over the phone that story. So, I don't know. Maybe we should have her on to share, but what did she tell you?
Yeah, we'll definitely have her on to share. She saw some pretty ongoing activity. It must have been going on for over a half an hour, right over by the Big Dipper, kind of by the handles section of the Big
Mhm.
Dipper.
Mhm.
She said she saw a larger UFO that was larger than the stars that was kind of moving in a zigzag line. And it had a smaller UFO that was circling around it.
Oh, that's cool.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and that drew her attention in. And then she thought that was crazy and went back inside and then came out to look again in the same direction to see if it was still there. And then there
She's
was all
like,
these like,
"Run away, run away. Wait, I want to go look at that more."
yeah. She told me that there was like multiple little grains of rice looking things that were bumbling around the Big Dipper that were kind of all there together in a group. And she came out even a third time past that just to check to see if they were still there, and there are still a few left.
Yeah.
So this was going on for a while. But we should get her on to give the full rundown because it's a pretty cool and actually a pretty big sighting to have for your first one. I'd say so.
Yeah, that sounds like it. That's something else, man. So yeah, I guess the third sibling had something weird happen this week. So that's cool.
She got all her weird in one bundle.
She got all our weird. She took my weird, goddamn. It's all good. I'm happy she had that. That's kind of that when stuff like that happens, it does kind of check your brain into a different place. And I don't know, it's like the place of opportunity or something opens up in your brain, or like the place of possibility opens up in my brain when weird stuff happens. And
Hmm.
I like that place. I like that place of feeling like the total freedom of possibility, like the expansiveness of all the possibility. There's something about that state of mind that I appreciate. Maybe people get that from like church. Maybe other people get that from like other ways and stuff. But I guess I've
Yeah.
always gotten that from my weird experiences, my synchronicities, my whatevers. But yeah, I like feeling that shift in me.
Hmm.
Yeah. My
Yeah.
perspective tends to be pretty narrow, I think. And then when stuff like that happens, it's like, boom, opens you up.
Yeah. Sometimes I try to meditate with that kind of being the goal in mind too.
Just, yeah, meditating into the state of possibility.
Yep. Like getting past all of your ego stuff and what lays at the core of your being,
Mm-hmm.
you know, that
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's good. It helps with somatic stress too, I feel like.
Oh, yeah, I think so. Like your nervous system.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Cool. Well, you just came out here, and I guess we want to talk about that today. Big, big Polly's adventure out to Northern California.
Yeah. Got back from that awesome adventure. Of course, getting to see my nephew and my brother-in-law and getting to go camping with everybody at the Matole River, where Joe heard and recorded some crazy sounds that we had put out on an earlier episode. I think it was episode 2.
Yeah.
So when I got there, it was exactly a year
Yeah, it was exactly a year.
from the last time.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
maybe not like to the day, but to the weekend, how the
To
calendar
the
shifts.
weekend.
Yeah, how the calendar shifts a little bit. I can tell you exactly what day that happened on. It was August 5th,
Okay.
and you came out on like the first and whatever. It was that same weekend, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we picked you up I think on August 1st. And like what a trooper you are, you wanted to go right out to the campground. so we so we
Yeah.
picked
Straight
you
from
up
the
and
airplane.
like went and got our coolers at my house and like let you reset your gear a little bit from the airplane and then we got in the car and drove for like I don't know, an hour and 45 minutes out to our campground spot. And when we got there too, it was like, what campground do we want?
Yeah. Yeah. We had a nice choice.
Yeah, we did. And, my partner and my kid kept being like, let's go over to the other side of the campground. And I just wanted to be like in my little brain that lives inside of my big brain that I should probably listen to more often. It was like, no, just be on this side of the campground. There was something about I wanted to be on the same side of the campground as when I was a year ago. We couldn't get the same campsite. So I just wanted to be
Yeah.
on that because it's kind of like a loop or like a U or something, kind of the shape that it's like snuggles up into that river bend. And so it makes a little like U shape. And I really wanted to be on the side of the campground where I had experienced all those sounds and everything. And so even though it wasn't like the nicest camp, it didn't have very many trees or anything to like hang our hammocks or whatever. I wanted to be on that side. But then that turned out to be good for a number of reasons because that's where the hot action happened. And we had zero trees in our campsite. So we had like rad sky watches every night. Like we had really good
Yep.
ability to see the stars. And so it actually turned out I couldn't actually justify all of that in my actual brain when I wanted to be at this site. And I was just like, no, I just want to be here. I just want to be here. And my husband knows me well enough to just be like, all right, this is what we're doing. We're going to do what she wants, because otherwise she'll just be annoying. Bless his heart. So, yeah. So we pulled up on that side of the campground and we dug in.
Yeah, and the riverbanks there were all like really super rocky with what kind of rock is that down there?
What kind of rock
That
is
gray,
it? Like
yeah, that gray
geology-wise?
rock. Yeah,
Oh, well, there's just a bunch of cobble. Yeah, cobbles and boulders and stuff like that, like the rounded river rock.
yeah,
It's not
yeah.
incredibly sandy. It's rocky there.
Hmm.
It's cobbly, it's rocky.
Very, very steep embankments to the back of it, like extremely steep.
Across the river from the campground.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that slope. I'm really glad you got to see the landscape of it, because, that slope on the other side is like, I wouldn't say it's near vertical. I mean, it is in certain parts, but I mean, like, it is near it is near vertical,
Yeah, yeah,
you
it's like
know?
80 degrees or whatever. Yeah,
It's really
so we'd
steep.
say that, yeah.
It's really steep. Yeah, something like that. 75, yeah, 80 degrees, sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's if you were climbing up it, you're climbing, hand over hand, kind of vibe, and if you fall down, you're probably not stopping until you get to the bottom. So, yeah, it's steep. It'd be very difficult to navigate as a person back there, which
Oh
is,
yeah.
kind of calls back to what I had heard back there, that yelling happening or that whooping happening. And then, 10, 15 minutes later, I heard it a distance away. And, that terrain is just so much, man.
Oh yeah.
So,
Yeah, it felt like when you're down at the river at night, it felt like everything across the river was to me was like a completely different world.
yeah.
Like that was some weird like transitions up.
Oh, yeah, totally. Like, all of the people are on the flat side where the river terraces are, because right there the river terraces are all on the north side of the bank. Yeah, and then the south side of the bank is just this big deep wilderness. I mean, there are some private properties over there and stuff, but for the most part it's just totally uninhabited. Very few people are out there. And then that hits, the King's Range, and then that goes on down to, the King's Range and the Lost Coast is 25 miles of coastline of totally undeveloped everything. I mean, that's BLM land out there on the coastline. And then it goes right up this ridge to the King's Range Ridge, and there's just nobody out there. And that's, like I said, that's 25 miles of coastline just in Humboldt. And then that continues for another 20 some odd miles in Mendocino. And so that's a lot of land where there's just not a lot of people here. And there is some really deep wilderness. We were talking about this, and like until you come here and you see how like dense the wilderness is here, I think it's hard to conceive of how like wild this place is. Like if you live in the East Coast or in the Midwest, you guys have woods, you guys have wilderness, but it's just not like, there's just so many people and everything is so built up out there, and sort of in
Yeah.
the East. And like you don't understand until you see a place like Yellowstone, or you go to Idaho, or you go to the Pac Northwest, like how dense some of the wilderness is that's left out here.
Right,
I always
right.
find that like a little mind-boggling.
Oh yeah, I definitely did with the change of scenery from Minneapolis to Northern California. Just heading out from the airport like straight to the woods.
Yeah, like you couldn't get more different from the beginning of your day to the end of your day, right, man?
Oh yeah.
My husband was like, "Are you sure this is a good idea? Like just picking him up from the airport and then just going camping?" And I was like, "Yeah, no, it's fine. This is like what he wants to do. Like this, like trust me. Like
Yeah.
this we're good with this, And he's like, "Okay." And then when we got out to the Matole and he saw you, he was like, "Okay." He's okay. He's enjoying himself. Like
Oh, that's so sweet. Yeah.
yeah. He just thought it was going to be intense. He's like, he's been crammed in the plane and then we're going to cram him in a car. Like, poor guy. I'm like, no, no, no. It's only like an hour and a half and he'll be fine. And this is where he wants to be. And we're trying to squeeze out every, morsel and drop of, time together. So we're doing this,
Yeah.
And it turned out that was actually a good thing that we went out on Thursday night because that was when some stuff kind of happened, huh? And unfortunately, did we get any of it recorded? No. But did you and me
No.
and my spouse hear it? Yes. At least there were I really appreciate it when weird stuff happens and my husband is there to hear it because I'm like, explain that away. No, just kidding.
Yeah.
I love
Play
his
that one.
I love his skeptical openness, but
Yeah. So we were returning back to the same spot a year later where a bunch of squatchy stuff had heard happened for you before. And we kind of planned for it a little bit with some gear just as to have a few things like Joe's got her H4 Zoom H4 and you had a new shotgun microphone too, right?
yeah,
Dynamic mic. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And then I had a tri-field meter. Yeah, so the first night when we got there, we kind of set up like an intention kind of experiment, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think more than it being just an experiment, it was just it was a nice centering, Like we got there, we had dinner, we got our camp all ready, we had a nice campfire and then, the kid went to bed and we were just all kind of chilling by the campfire and you had some tobacco, so
Hmm.
we made some tobacco offerings and just, kind of tried to get centered and an intention, just to the space, to everything, which is just a nice thing to do when you arrive to a place in nature like that, I think, So just
Absolutely. Yeah.
you know, try to align yourself with that space and say, that you're coming, I don't know, trying to come as best as you can with good intentions, as fallible and frail little humans as we are. I always think of that when I put my intention in. And it's like, dude, I know I don't know better, but I'm trying and I'm here with love and show me what you can, teach me what you can. I'm here and I'm open. That was basically what I
Yeah.
said in my mind when, I was putting down that tobacco in the fire. Yeah, I was glad you brought that tobacco. That felt good to put that in there. Feels
Yeah.
grounding to me. Feels like it connects me to a space.
Yeah. I thought it was really important for me to have that just to bond with the space for sure. And yeah, just to say like hello and like thanks for having me and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And then you got the party started after that with your green laser. Oh my god. Oh my god.
Yeah.
That green
Yeah.
laser is so cool. I love that thing so much. But my husband loves it more. He was so I had no idea he was going to react like that when you pulled that out. I was like, "Oh, Uncle Polly brought a green laser. That's really cool." And he was like, "Oh my god, how far does this go? What is the range on this thing?" And we kept flashing it in the stars because I mean, you brought it so that we could point stuff out in the sky, right? And we could do UFO
Yeah.
sky watches and try to get
Yeah. For
stuff to
you.
blink back at us or whatever,
Yep. Yep. Totally.
which I didn't know. I mean, I've heard people having green lasers and stuff that do squatchy stuff, like people shining lasers and getting eye shine back and stuff, but I've never heard it in regards to like UFO skywatch stuff.
Yeah, it's pretty common thing. Yeah, I thought it'd be fun to surprise you guys with that because I knew that we'd be having some really clear skies down there. So it'd be like kind of prime sky watching. So that was fun. And we did see a lot of interesting things. Like you could really see a lot of movement in the sky.
Oh man, there's so much space junk up there now. It's crazy how many
Yeah,
satellites are flying around up in our atmosphere now. It's nuts. And then we also saw some
yeah,
stuff that felt compelling. And then also we
definitely.
found out afterwards that there were a bunch of CEO or sorry, a bunch of what were the names of the solar flashes? There were a bunch of solar storms or something that weekend.
Oh, yeah. I think, yeah, there was solar storms. I think it was like up to like X, it was somewhere in the X category. I think it was like an
Yeah.
X13 or something like that. It was pretty
Yeah,
high.
it was kind of powerful. I just remember
Yeah.
like, oh, we didn't know about that until we got home. But there were solar flares happening that were pretty intense and
Yep.
yeah, that was I don't know if that had to do with some of the random flashes we were seeing in the sky. But we would just be looking and then there would just be like a little pinpoint flash of light like a little star lighting up and then it would go away. And I don't know if that had something to do with the solar flares. I've never seen that many of those like ever. So,
Oh, the things that were blinking and disappearing.
yeah, and we would just be sitting there watching the sky and then you would see these like pinpoint flashes of light like a star showing up and then disappearing right away. And it would do it
Yep.
maybe 3 or 4 times from that direction and then it would go away. So I don't know. I don't know what that is all about, but we saw quite a bunch of that stuff.
Yeah. They kind of looked like little donuts to me for just a split second. If that makes any sense.
Huh. And
Like it
sometimes
was,
they would seem like not white. They had some of them seemed like they were like a greenish color, like they had color to them. So I'm sure some
yeah.
astronomer out there knows what the heck we're talking about, but I don't know. I mean, or maybe it was aliens. Who knows? It was certainly fun to flash your green laser at the satellites and stuff, which is, or whatever it was that was flying around up there. But
Yeah.
we didn't flash it at any aircrafts or drones or helicopters or anything. Oh my gosh, and there was a helicopter.
Yep. There was a helicopter that flew over.
That was the second night, I think, wasn't it?
I think that was the second night. Yeah. So the big thing, the first night was having a lot of fun pointing the laser in the sky,
Yeah,
and then all of a sudden we hear this really, really loud sound, like right behind us.
right across the river, right behind
Yep,
us,
yep,
right behind our campground, a giant tree broke. The cracking and falling of a very good-sized tree happened. And then after the tree break happened, there sounded like something was falling down that very, very steep hill
yep,
because it was cracking and breaking twigs all the way down the hill. Like it was just all this, like, the sound of like bushes and twigs and things just kind of getting cracked and mowed out of the way, like a large object was falling down the hill, like maybe the tree or maybe a boulder.
yeah,
And then there was a pretty good sized splash at the end when
yep,
whatever was falling down the hill fell in the river, right?
right. It sounded like it splashed into really deep water. Yeah,
Yeah, the water was deep enough to, it wasn't just like a puddle splash. It sounded like something like went into some kind of water that had a little bit of depth to it. We were listening so hard. I was listening for anything after that splash. Like Did I hear any footsteps on the gravel bar? Did I hear anything go back up the hill? Like if it was like a bear or deer or whatever, even though bear don't come around that spot, which I think I talked about in the last episode. Bear don't go there. I don't know why. Bear are around that valley, I'm sure, but they don't go to that campsite.
Yeah.
Nothing is bear proof there.
At
Like
the
the trash
campsite.
cans
Yeah.
and everything are just like metal lids you can open right up that a bear could dig in if it wanted to. And I've never been down there I've never seen anything raid those trash bins.
Yeah, that's so crazy. That's kind of saying something.
Yeah, isn't it? It's like things aren't bear proof and whatever. I mean, the other campgrounds I go to where the bears are bad, they tell you. Or like they have bear boxes, they tell you bears are there, they tell you to bear proof your stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, anyway, so giant tree break. It sounded like something falling down a hill. Or
Lots
maybe
of stuff falling downhill.
lots of stuff falling down the hill. And maybe it was the top of the tree crashing through the bushes. That's kind of what we thought. The top of the tree fell and was cracking down as it went down the hill or something. But man, that splash was like loud. The tree break was loud. Like that must have been a sizable tree that broke, right?
Yeah.
Just to be hyper analytical about it, it's a steep hillside. There are a fair amount of alder trees and whatnot that are scattered all around that area. And like alder trees notoriously will break once they get to a certain age. They just get weak. And then hanging over a steep hillside, it's like, all right, well, maybe that was like an alder tree that broke. And that's what I'm telling myself, although that was like very compelling, all of that noise. Right after we did our little tobacco offering and we were flashing our laser around in the sky, and then just this giant tree break. And then also our neighbors heard it, didn't they? Our neighbor campers heard it.
Yeah, because, well, after we heard it, you, me, and Annabelle were all looking at each other like, did you just hear that? And I think the next thing that was discussed was who's going to stay at the camp with Oliver.
So that we could go down to the
Yeah, because we both wanted to run down there. And
yeah. Yeah. I don't think Annabelle wanted to go down there. He was like, it's fine, I'll stay here. I'm like, okay, bye.
yeah. Yeah,
So we went
we
down
ran
there.
down with our headlamps on, and there were some like older teenager neighbor kids that were looking over there and actually kind of like jumped across the river in a shallower space to go and look. But yeah, nothing that was like obvious. Like you would think was something that had that loud of a noise
And that big
that
of a
you'd be
splash.
that big of a splash that you should have seen something like pretty obvious. So
I know. And well, we didn't see anything and it was dark as heck and whatever. So we just kind of hung up our efforts for the night and we went back to the campsite. And me and you and my hubby just decided the next day that we would look. We would look because if something that big crashed down the hill and splashed like that, like if it was a boulder, we would be able to find that boulder, right?
yeah,
Like
yeah,
if it was, we would have been able to find the path that boulder fell down. Like we would have been able to see that, we would have been able to see maybe what tree broke,
yeah,
The next day we went kind of all up and down right across the river from our campsite looking for some sort of sign of something, where a tree had fallen or snapped, where a boulder had rolled down the hill, and we didn't find anything.
yeah. Nothing fresh.
Yeah, and there's really only like the way that river flows is it flows shallow and deeply, like any river, has these like shallow spots, it's got deeper spots, and we looked really hard and we took into consideration, that size of the splash we heard, kind of looking at those places where something could even have made that splash in the river, and we didn't really find anything. And even if it was like a landslide, like soil moving down, the hillside. We didn't find anything that looked like a fresh landslide either. We just didn't find anything. That was really odd. Yeah, if it had been an object that fell, I feel like we would have seen it.
Yeah, I think so too. Or some kind of trace, like obvious trace of it be left behind, like the trail of everything it was tearing out and like demolishing on the way down.
Yeah. And my husband went over there and he looked with you and I looked with you and we all
Yep.
looked up and down and we just didn't find a dang thing. Although we did find something that was kind of cool, like a potential tree structure thing when we were over kind of looking up and down the banks across the way. That was an
Yeah.
interesting formation.
This is a spot that we decided to do a gifting experiment at, and we should kind of explain a little bit what it looked like. Was it all alder trees?
I believe so. Or willow. I can't remember.
So there are two trees on the embankment, one slightly in front of the other one, and this other tree that was broken off at the top and wedged, root ball sticking out from the other side, but like weathered, like it was old, like it looked like it had been floating in the water for a while, kind of old. Looked like this tree had been broken off and wedged in between two other trees, making like a little H. Like, would you kind of say that that's kind of what you saw too?
Yeah, it was wedged and sort of woven between two trees that were perpendicular to it. And one of the
Yeah,
trees was like a pistol butt kind of tree, which is what they call it when a tree is growing out of an unstable hillside. And it kind of, it'll be growing straight and then the hill will shift, causing the tree to go sideways, and then it'll correct its growth and turn up. So it creates
yeah,
like this little like L kind of situation off the side of a hill. And they
right.
call that a pistol butt tree. So this tree had fallen in front of one tree and then behind another tree on the like little L, bottom L part of the pistol butt.
That's right. Good call on the pistol butt. I forgot about that detail because that was kind of cool about that one tree.
Yeah, so the root ball was facing downstream and the top of the tree that had fallen was facing upstream. So either that tree used to be right there, right next to the trees that it had. The only way that that could have happened naturally is if that tree was right next to the two trees it had fallen into, and that it had fallen and somehow got in front of that tree that it was right next to, and then behind the tree that was a pistol butt tree, right? So that's like the weavy thing. And this like big root ball, it wasn't broken off at the base. There was a big root ball. So it
Oh,
looked like it had maybe drifted there, but that wouldn't have been possible considering how there was this base of this tree that had fallen was actually two trees and one piece had broken off, so it created almost like a barb, right?
yeah,
Do you remember this? And so this tree it had fallen against was in the crook of the barb, right? So the broken
yes,
off stump was on the backside of that first tree, and then the full tree that had fallen was on the front side of that first tree, and then and then it went on to be behind that other pistol butt tree. This is really hard to explain visually what we were seeing, but it's like it wouldn't have been really deposited in that manner by the river, by like a river flow, because of the
right.
way the barb was facing upstream. So it just would have been a really weird way to get wedged given the direction of the flow of the river.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, so that leaves that if it had gotten there naturally, it would have had to fallen from like right next to that first tree that it was kind of hooked onto with that barb,
Yeah,
which I suppose could be possible. But what was interesting was that there was no obvious indentation in the ground, like where root ball had come out. Usually there's a big pit that's left when the root ball gets ripped out of the ground like that. You
Right.
know, there's usually some sort of evidence that there had been a space there, where a root ball was.
Yeah, it should have been a huge divot. Yeah.
Yeah, and there wasn't anything there. It was kind of sandy at that spot. And it was
Yeah.
super flat, and there was zero indentation. There was zero evidence that that root ball had come from right there. Now, I suppose it's possible the river deposited a bunch of sand there, but there was a lot of sand there, and it looked fairly I don't know, it just looked fairly uniform with everything else that was going on that beach. But the way that tree fell was really interesting. It's like woven into those two trees. So,
Yeah. It's either like, I don't know, in my mind, it was like either like the perfect accident or done intentionally.
yeah, exactly.
That's kind of why I boiled it down to.
Yeah, and we both thought it was very compelling. I've never actually found any tree straw. I've never actually even looked. Let's just be honest. I've never really looked for them. I don't know. The skeptical part of me is like, I could reason this through to some end, but it also seemed like a good gifting
Yeah.
spot. So we put our stuff up there and
Yeah. Seemed like the perfect in between zone. That would be just a good interface spot to try.
yeah, it was an alder tree. I'm just looking at these pictures right now and I'm like, oh, these are all alder trees.
So, and then for the gifting spot, we were having fun with that. Like we both kind of intuited some things that we wanted to place there. This was day two, I believe, right?
Yeah. Yeah, this was
Do you,
the day after we got there. Uh-huh.
mm-hmm.
It was the that crazy tree break thing happened and then we were looking for evidence of what had come down the hill and we couldn't find it, but then we found that tree and we were like, well, this will be a good spot to put our little gifting
Yeah.
trinkets or whatever. So we sat around and looked at our gifting objects and then I had brought my pendulum, so we were using the pendulum to pendulum on potential objects, which fascinated my son. He was pretty
Yeah, that was so
fascinated.
cool.
He was like, I love how I have both ends of it. Like I've got the 9-year-old that's like, whoa, that's super cool. And then my husband's like, you're moving that.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Hey, that's good.
No, I love it. I love it. I love it. You're moving that. Let me try that. And then when he's trying to stand as still as he can, he's like, I can't make it work. And I was like, well, all right.
You had some what was it adventuring? Green
Yeah.
adventuring beads
Yeah, I had some adventuring beads.
and abalone.
Yeah, a piece of abalone and a really
Hmm.
nice piece of jasper.
And Jasper, yeah, yeah. And then I had an intuition to bring toy cars,
Yeah,
Hot
some
Wheels
Hot
cars.
Wheels. Yeah.
I thought maybe like an adolescent Squatch might enjoy the Hot Wheels, but Oliver picked out a Hot Wheels car from a pack of eight, and he got to keep the rest of them. That
Yeah.
was that was the deal.
True, but I do have to say on his behalf is that he picked out the coolest ones for the gifting.
Yeah, that's true.
The ones that he thought were the coolest were the gifting. And then as we were leaving, he's like, "Are we just gonna leave those?" Like he kind of checked in. He's like, "Are we just leaving these? Like, do I get to go back and get those?" I was like, "No." He's like, "Oh, okay, all right, that's fine. I was just checking." He was so funny about the Stellar Jays too. He was so mad at the Stellar Jays by the time we left because those Stellar Jays were so annoying at 6 a.m. They would start squawking, and he was so
Yeah,
pissed about those birds. It was pretty funny.
They do not have very pretty voices, that's for sure.
No, they squawk at you. They just sit and squawk. And there's so many of them at that campground. They're like the rodents of the trees, man. They come in and dive in on your food and your trash bags and all that. And then they just start yelling at 6 a.m. It's just so annoying. He got so upset he started throwing rocks at them, which is like very unlike him. He like puts spiders out of our house. He like takes spiders outside. He won't kill spiders. He takes them out. He's like extremely kind to animals and insects and stuff. But yeah, he was
Yeah,
like throwing rocks. I mean, the only reason I let him throw the rock is because I knew he wouldn't like. I don't think he was going to be successful in hitting them. But yeah, it was pretty funny.
yeah. Let him get all his feelings out.
He let him exactly. I just
Yeah,
it's like
that's
I've
great.
never
Yeah.
seen you throw a rock at an animal or like want to or like oh man, I'm sorry. It was really funny. It's very unlike him.
I know, I think he said something about like he was getting his revenge or something like that.
Yes, that's what he was saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we picked out all our gifting stuff
Yeah.
and we went down to the H structure that we were talking about earlier to place them all there. Well, I kind of wanted to take some readings with my tri-field meter that I've brought with, just to have some extra data to work with. But so everybody helped me with that. Oliver was helping taking readings of the magnetics in the area and stuff like that. He was actually reading some of the plants and stuff like that, which I thought was kind of cool. He
Oh
wrote
yeah,
everything down.
he did a bunch of measurements on the tree structure trees and then he went to the next
Mhm.
tree over and did them on the non-tree structure tree. Like,
Mhm.
he was getting some, which was really, I thought that was really smart. And then he was doing them on the rocks. He did it on the river. He did it on some other plants that were there. He was gathering some good baseline data.
Yeah, so with the idea of that being like having a initial reading, put your stuff there, and then see what happens the next day, get another reading, and see if the thing has changed. And it did actually change the next day, but not by a significant amount. Like I
Yeah.
think it changed by like one milligauss higher than before. So it was like something, but not a lot.
Yeah. And then we put out my mic. I set my Zoom recorder up to be like sound activated or whatever. And the second night we were there was my first attempt at setting up my mic. And I put it on a remote situation and I kept the Zoom recorder in my tent and then the mic was recording down the hill and it just didn't record much really that first attempt. Like it seemed like it ran out of juice pretty quickly and I don't know why cuz the remote transmitter to my Zoom recorder was on all night and my Zoom recorder was on all night. Like they both died around like 6 in the morning. But my Zoom mic stopped recording around like 1. We put it out around like midnight and that thing stopped recording at like 1. So I don't know if
Yeah.
my mic got drained. I think my mic battery might have gotten drained. I don't know what the deal was there. And then the second attempt, our last night there, our third and last night there, I decided to hardwire my Zoom mic to my Zoom recorder because it's my
Yeah.
shotgun mic or whatever. Yeah, so we decided to ditch the remote transmission to see if it would help with batteries. And so I plugged my mic directly in my Zoom recorder and we just left my Zoom recorder and my mic down cuz we were recording at the river bank basically.
Right. Yeah, down
Yeah.
by the riverbed. Yep.
Yeah, and I set the decibels to be more sensitive too. So like that it would flick on at less decibels so that it
Yep.
would, flip on and off. It was like, so it was more sound sensitive basically. And yeah, and then the next morning, my Zoom recorder was drained. The batteries were dead, which is fine because it lasts, you put that thing out at like 11 o'clock, it'll last like maybe 7 hours on the batteries. So that, yeah, my Zoom recorder was dead, but my mic was still on. Like my mic still had juice and was functioning.
Right.
And so we thought that was interesting. And then I looked at the Zoom recordings and it recorded us like setting it up, and it maybe flipped on one time, but I think it might have been, we were sitting on the riverbank for a while just listening to the forest and the river and stuff after we set it up. And I think maybe we triggered it one time and then that was it. After that, it never got triggered again. So I don't know if just, nothing triggered it and I just got 0 tracks, or if there was some interference that I don't understand really. So I don't know. But it was also my first foray in using my Zoom and my new mic, my shotgun mic and my Zoom recorder, and kind of playing around with that. So for me, it was more about maybe not successfully capturing something, but just like successfully fiddling around with my equipment and figuring out the best sort of configuration of how to do it. So yeah.
Yeah. Just learning it.
Yeah. Heard a lot of owls though. I didn't catch any of it on the audio, but I did hear a lot of owls calling and responding, which is nice. It's like one of my favorites when I'm lying in bed and you can just hear them hooting at each other. And it actually sounded like owls. It didn't sound like something trying to be an owl. It actually just sounded like an owl.
That thought did cross my mind in my attempt. I was like, is that an imitation or not? Okay.
Yeah.
No, that's the real thing. Okay, I can go back to sleep.
Yeah. We sat out on that riverbank on that night, we sat out on the riverbank and just sort of listened to the forest. And there was definitely some sort of animal or something making some noise on the hill across the river from us. There was definitely some stuff up there. Definitely heard some dogs in the distance. We heard one scream from way far away. And it was just too far away for us to be able to tell if that was anything compelling or not. That just could have been a human, whooping it up or whatever. So.
Yeah, the interesting thing was to me, though, I just remember from listening to those recordings that you sent me from the year before that it was definitely in the same like range vocally, but it was just really, really, really far away.
Yeah. And then at one point there was also really far away some weird bassy pulse, like boom, from really far away though, and it was really hard to tell, what that was. But yeah, it was some sort of bassy sort of, maybe it was a knock, maybe it was, I don't know. Not sure what that was, but there was definitely some noises out there that were like, I don't know what that is. We're out in the middle of nowhere.
So that was the third night that we were there. And we had gone down to the river with your friend Aaron.
Yeah.
Who had joined us.
Joined us for some squillin. TM.
Squatching and chilling.
Squatching and chilling. We've coined a new phrase. Paul was like, we're squilling. That was really funny. Because low-key squatching is like, that's what we do. We don't try to go out. It's my opinion that like, people, I just don't want to go into maybe what they would perceive as their territory, Like if you're at a campground where there are like people and humans and like stuff happens, like cool, There's just part of me that's like, I don't want to try to do tree knocking. I don't want to try to do this like thing that's like pokey at them.
Right.
It's just kind of like, here we are, and here I am with an open heart and an open mind. And like, if you want to broach connection, then that's cool. For me, that feels better than traipsing around in what could be perceived like as their space, you know?
Right.
Sometimes I wonder if that's why people have like really negative encounters, as they like accidentally or sort of like maybe cross some lines they don't know they're crossing or something, you know?
Right. Into some different territory, which is what it felt like across the riverbank. But
Yeah,
yeah, maybe that's the point where rocks start getting launched at you.
right.
Rocks of different varying sizes get launched at you.
Yeah. So my approach is some squilling, some good low
It's much
key
more
squatching.
respectful.
Low key squatching, you know? Here we
Yeah.
are, we're camping. Yeah. Much more respectful. Yeah, I'm not trying to like antagonize a situation. Plus, I've got a kid, you know? We're chilling. We're not going to be doing anything cray cray, you know? So,
Right.
yeah.
It was really a fun way to involve Oliver too.
Yeah, he liked doing the gifting. He really liked your tri-field meter a lot. He really dug that. He just was like, I want that. Give me that. Give it to me.
It was
He
pretty
got,
cool.
he got a little grabby. I know he liked the tri-field meter. My hubby liked the green laser. Something for everybody, you know?
Yeah. I liked all of it.
I did too.
We had some really good sky watches though.
We did. We did have
Hmm.
some good sky watches. The night Oliver stayed up with us and watched the sky, though, we had our little like river floaty tubey things that we were laying in. He really liked that. He just laid there and flashed stuff at the satellites or whatever. That was cool.
Hmm.
And then we also had the helicopter come over the campground. And, you know, I've never seen a helicopter fly over that area at all. Like, what was a helicopter doing out there at like 10 or 11 at night? I mean, it was late. I don't know. The Coast Guard is up in Arcata, like up in the Eureka area. So, like, if it was the Coast Guard, it was a really late flight, and that's unusual. And I've never seen the Coast Guard out there, even though I'm sure they go out there and do exercises. I'm sure they do rescue extractions or whatever. And then that helicopter flashed its lights at the campground.
Yeah,
Remember
that's
how it
right.
like
Hmm.
flashed us lights and then kept going? And my personal opinion, which is completely unsubstantiated, was that it was a helicopter going to the Scientology compound, which is out on the coast, because it was flying in that direction. It was flying sort of in a north and west direction from the campground,
Right.
which is the direction of the Scientology compound that's out there. Another weird thing about that place, huh?
Yeah, like it was probably what, like 100 miles away or something like that, maybe the Scientology place,
The
the compound.
Scientology place? No.
Yeah,
No, the Scientology
50
place.
miles.
No, let's see. We were about 10 miles from the coast, and then
Yeah.
maybe another 10 miles tops north of there. So
Oh,
think
yeah.
10
So,
miles west and 10 miles north,
yeah.
roughly, to where that giant piece of property is. I mean, they own like some ungodly amount of ranch land on top of that hill over there. It's like 1,000-acre ranch or some huge piece of land up on top
Okay.
of the ridge that's on the coast there.
Yeah. So they're definitely like right there, like neighbors. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So it'd be totally, and they have a helipad. That's the other thing, is they've got a helicopter landing pad on the ridge of their compound. So like, that's why I thought it was their helicopter, because I couldn't see that it was like an orange Coast Guard helicopter. Like, it definitely was not the orange Coast Guard helicopter that I normally see. So I don't know whose helicopter that was, but it was not orange, which you could totally see. Like, you would have been able to see it was low enough and it had enough lights on it to see that it wasn't orange.
Right. Yeah, you could see the bottom of it for sure
Yeah.
because it
Yeah.
was pretty close.
Yeah. And I mean, the Coast Guard helicopter flies over my house twice a day, so I'm very familiar with what the bottom of the Coast Guard helicopter looks like. So that was not the Coast Guard helicopter. Don't know.
Yeah.
Scientology, I'm pretty sure.
They flashed their lights at us.
They did. Maybe Tom Cruise was in there. Hey,
Let's hope.
Tom. Hey, Tom. How's it going? Want to roast some marshmallows, dude? You could rappel from your helicopter down here since you do your
Yeah.
own stunts. Anyways, you can see that Scientology compound on Google Earth because they emblazoned their flippin' Scientology logo on the mountaintop. Like some weird Scientology Nazca line bullshit.
Yep. I remember you showing me pictures of that. That's
I was
that's a good
like,
way to
where
put
is
it.
this thing, And I was trying to show you where it was. And then I was like, oh, here it is. How do I know? Because they have their weird double diamond circle logo thing. I don't know. Anyways, if you're curious about it, you could just Google it and it's right there. So, I don't know. I don't know why they got to pick over here to be. They own some of the nicest land, like in Humboldt County. I'll tell you what, man. Like that ridgetop where that compound is, it's nice.
Yeah.
Anyways, those rich assholes.
Yeah, it's a perfect area to go if you want to be left alone because there's nobody else out there really.
No, literally, there's nobody out there. And it's like right on the coast too. So there's like this sort of like strategic sort of, there's like nothing to the west of you, period, And you're at the highest point, so you can see, I don't know. Leave it to Soham to have those weirdos want to move in.
Yeah, right.
I mean, look, that's why all the cannabis growers came here, because they wanted to be out in the middle of nowhere and they want to be left alone to grow their weed. So that's why everything blew up out here, regarding like cannabis production too. There's just literally no way for law enforcement to find you. Even with their helicopters, like when the feds came in with camp, the DEA and the feds, he used to fly around here and try to bust cannabis growers and stuff. It's just you could just take the risk and do it. And like, oh my God, Oliver just popped into the window of my studio and he scared the shit out of me. He just like all of a sudden popped into the window. He's getting prepared for the Beetlejuice release next weekend. He's very excited. We bought our tickets already, and our theater has reserved seats, so we like bought our tickets and reserved our seats already.
That'll be so much fun. And
Yeah,
his suit looks perfect right now
yeah.
with the wig and everything.
Yeah, I ordered some grease paints so I can paint up his face and stuff. So should be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, he wants to go like to the movie in character, which is hilarious. Love it. So that was pretty much it. Our weirdo Scientology helicopter, our green lasers. The tree break though, man. Really, the tree break was pretty epic, and I'm so glad that we had some interesting stuff happen when you were there. That tree break though was on that first night. I mean, that That was something else. I'll tell you what.
Yeah, that was probably the most compelling thing that happened to me while we were there.
Yeah.
Besides like hearing some of the noises we heard with Aaron when we were on the beach on the
Yeah.
third night. You could definitely tell something was back there that was trying to be sneaky or something like that.
Yeah.
Oh, what was your narrative again for that you're entertaining about the
Oh, my dream, my dream
yeah,
narrative about
yeah,
what the story around the tree break. Oh, okay,
yeah.
yeah. So, like, in my mind, I was like, there was some, like, maybe a juvenile Sasquatch or something that was like leaning on an alder tree, looking up in the sky at our green lasers because we were flashing around green lasers and being silly about our Skywatch, and my narrative was that there was some like Sassy the Sasquatch was over there leaning on a tree and sort of like looking at the laser and the watching us, and then the tree broke. The tree broke underneath him and he fell down the hill into the river. Like he just messed up because he's just hanging out looking at our laser and leaning against a tree that broke on him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's totally possible.
Yeah, Annabelle's like, maybe it was a deer that fell down the hill. I was like, but how does a deer break a tree like that? He's like, okay, that's a good point. He's like, maybe a bear was up in the tree and it cracked and fell and the bear fell down the hill. And I was like, there are no bears here.
Right. No bears.
There are no frickin' bears here. And if it was a bear and it splashed in the water, we would have heard a big bear walking on a gravel thing or walking back up running back up the embankment or something. Like bears are loud, like they can't hide their loud footfall and stuff. So like we would have definitely heard, I think, like something on a gravel bar or scrambling out of the river or something.
Yeah. Also, that area where we're at, it amplifies sound a lot too. So I think you'd be able to hear that actually very, very clearly if something was like getting up and
Oh
running
yeah.
away or something like that.
Oh
You'd be
yeah.
able to hear. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, the sound of those big old cobbles clacking around and stuff with anybody with any sort of weight on them, you know. But then it's like, how would let's just say it was a Sasquatch that fell his ass down the hill and into the water. How would that animal being thing, question mark what that is, get up and go away without making any sound after having made such a big sound?
Yeah. Maybe it got so like embarrassed about falling down the side of the mountain that
Tiptoed away.
it made itself disappear.
Oh, okay. There we go. It was like, shit, phase out. I gotta go into phase out mode.
Oh shit, I fucked up.
Maybe so. Maybe that was what happened. It's as likely as anything else, I guess.
Yeah, possible.
Sassy smoked too much weed and was spacing out on the lasers, man.
Exactly.
Got some good Sohum weed up in there and was like, oh, what they got over there? The green laser? Snap! Shit! Oh, yeah. That's it. That's my narrative.
I like it. That's perfect.
Oh, Sassy. Stoned little Sassy.
I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so not a whole lot of data out of that, but definitely a good learning curve, I think.
Yeah, not a lot of data, not any recordings of that tree break or anything, but 3 people heard it. You and me and the hubby who heard it. So that's something. I'm glad he heard
Yeah,
it because then I can say it really happened. He's
yeah,
my he's my skeptical He's my skeptical grounding force. So,
Yeah, that's good.
yeah.
Yeah, if you ever want any premium sky watching activity though, the stars down by the Matole River are amazing. You can see like everything happening.
Yeah, you can see the smear of the Milky Way. You can see, yeah, it's good. It's a really great campsite. We love that place so much. It's Humboldt's little secret. Not a lot of people from out of the area go there, which I like. When I'm down there, I usually run into people from like Rio Del or Arcata or Eureka. It's like the little local. I mean, sometimes there are people from out of the area, but it's mainly Humboldtian people that use that place. So I wonder what that place would be like in the winter when it's like dead and there's nobody there. It would be cool to go down there in the winter.
Yeah, that would be very interesting.
Yeah. Just kind of be a person there when people usually aren't there. I wonder if you would have any activity. We went there earlier in the summer and I didn't have any. There was nothing there, and we went there in July, early in July. So, for whatever reason, the
Yeah,
activity that I've experienced has always been in August. So, I don't know if that's like a seasonal thing, like it's
yeah,
cooler down lower later in the summer, so they move down in elevation, or I'm not sure.
yeah, or something changed with food or something, food
Yeah.
resources.
Uh-huh. So, I don't know.
Had a lot of fun doing that with you, and it was good. I thought it was good to do a follow up on your previous experience too, and like give it a good shot to try to collect some information. And you know what? I kind of have a feeling that every time you go there, something is going to happen, and it's probably going to be different all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. That place is cool. I wouldn't doubt that stuff would happen. My eyes and ears are open in a different way now when I'm down there. I'm a little more observant. I really hate getting out of the tent to pee by myself in the middle of the night. I don't like that. Like, I kind of didn't like it before, but now I'm like, I really don't like it. I really don't like it. I told Annabelle, I was like, I might wake you up to go pee with me. And he's like, God damn it. Okay. It's like, okay, thanks. I'm a little scared.
I actually won't like there was a couple of times where I had to pee really, really bad and I waited till the last moment because kind of in the back of my mind is like, okay, one of two things is gonna happen. Sasquatch is gonna be staring at me or I'm gonna get abducted.
Yeah, right, right.
Because it was also like 3 in the morning too, like
Yeah,
it would have been the perfect time for anything weird to happen. Of course, that's the time I need to pee. So
the tween time is right when my bladder says, you need to get up and go pee now. I know. That's right when I captured those recordings. It was like 2:30 in the morning.
yeah.
Yep. I'm a grown adult who's scared to go pee when they're camping. Oh, I admit it.
Oh, we're leaving out the story about the kitten on the third night though.
Oh,
So you
that was
backtrack.
weird. You guys were so funny. Right, because I thought I heard, yeah, okay, so you and me and Aaron were up hanging out, and
Yeah.
everybody else had gone to bed, and it was really late. It was probably like 1:30 in the morning. And yeah, and I thought I heard meowing. And I was like,
Yeah.
I hear meowing, and then I was like, well, maybe that's just a fox because fox make really weird noises. And then it was like really close, and there was like meow, meow, and we're like, well, no, that's a cat. And then we shined our light, and there was a little kitty that had come up from the river. And then you tried
From
to
who
follow,
knows where.
yeah, you tried to follow it. because he wanted to make friends with it. It was like this feral cat that wanted nothing to do with us. Although, I don't know why it came over to us. It was interested in us and meowing at us and investigating us. But then when, you made any move towards it, it kind of ran off.
Yeah, I think it would have. I think it actually would have came up to us because it doubled back after the first time and
Yeah,
shot right past in front of us because we clicked on all our lights and we're moving
yeah,
around quickly.
it did. Yeah, we had our little initial sighting and then it kind of like circled back, doubled back behind us and then ran by our picnic bench or whatever. So it was definitely coming
Yeah,
in. Yeah, but then once you tried to like make any gesture towards it, it got skittish and ran off.
yeah. I've kind of felt like I might be being fairy led or something like that
I
because
know you went down the path after it. You're like, let's get some turkey from the cooler. I'm like, and then you disappeared. I was like, he's following that cat into the freaking darkness. Okay. All right.
yeah, and that cat like looked back and would like take off and then like look back and then take off again, like that kind of thing. So
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, great. This cat's probably actually really a fairy that's gonna kidnap me and bring me into a different realm or something like that.
You got to be careful. You got to be careful. If it's not the aliens, it's the fairies. If it's not the fairies, it's Sassy, the Sasquatch. Dude, watch out.
Watch out.
You're a tasty little human morsel.
So yeah, probably good I didn't find that cat. We probably would have given that cat to Aaron.
Erin would have inherited the cat. She's like, God damn it. I was like, yeah, Annabelle's allergic to cats. We wouldn't be able to have it in our car. I'd have to go home in your car. And she's like, shit. I don't want another cat. Please don't. But yeah, she had adopted that cat in her mind before the whole incident was over. It was pretty funny.
Just had to go through it for a minute.
Yeah, totally. Oh, that was great. Well, it was really fun to have you here. It was a really beautiful weekend, even though you got burnt to all hell. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Your little
Yeah,
lobster feet.
yeah, I've got Irma sandal tan on my
Do
feet right
you
now.
still? Seriously? Like a month later?
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah, you can still see where my Tiva straps went on my feet. It's pretty
Oh,
funny.
good Lord. Yeah. Hopefully it'll be there all winter long and you can look down and be like, well, I was in the sun, warm, at some point. That's funny. Good reminder of our
Yeah,
adventures.
exactly. My little souvenir.
The other weird thing that happened on your visit was at the day before you left, and my dog broke his leg. And do you remember when maybe about 15 minutes before my dog broke his leg, that Ollie came out and said that he was going to the bathroom and in our bathroom, and he saw a shadow person cruise
Oh
by.
yeah, that's right. Uh-huh.
And he was like, he just came out. He's like, I saw like a figure like run through the door of the bathroom, like from the outside door to the inside door of our bathroom, because we have like a door that's to the yard in our bathroom. And then he saw something kind of shoot by. He said like a kind of a person figure, and but it was dark, black kind of color. And he came out and he told us about it. He was a little bugged. He was a little bugged out by it. And then just a few minutes later, my dog jumped for a ball, fell with all of his weight on his back leg, and fractured his tibia in 3 places. And I don't know. I mean, I thought the timing of all of that was kind of interesting. I'm not trying to read
Yeah.
into it, but I just like that was how it all unfolded. Was my kid saw a shadow person and then my dog broke his leg like just a few minutes later. And
Yep.
I had this weird inkling that I should like burn sage or cedar or something after my kid saw that shadow person, and I kicked myself for not doing that because I felt like I needed to smudge out the space. And then I didn't, and then my dog got hurt and I was like, God damn it. Like, why? Why didn't I do that?
Maybe we forgot because I was taking tri-field meter readings. Remember?
Yeah, you
Because
did. You
you
took
had
some
me go through
readings,
there. Yeah.
which weren't really significant. There was nothing significant that popped up on that tri-field meter after.
No, that was just normal inside magnetics.
Yeah, I don't know.
Nonetheless, the timing of that was just weird.
Yeah.
Poor little otter too.
Oh, the Mod
A little
Podge.
sad boy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's doing a lot better now, but, hopefully his break will heal properly. I'm hoping his break heals properly.
Yeah.
Oh,
I did do some long distance Reiki with Otter
thank you.
last week too. Forgot to tell you about that.
Good, thanks. Yeah. Yeah, anyways, I think that's pretty much all I got.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much all we have for everybody today for sure. But
All right.
yeah. So revisiting the Matole after last year.
Yeah, the 1 year anniversary of some weird stuff that happened out there. And then more
Yeah.
weird stuff happened. Yeah. Oh, we got a good campfire story from Aaron that I'll have to load up and send to you too. So maybe
Oh
maybe
yeah.
that'll be on our next something.
Maybe we can do some experiencer stuff. We could do Aaron and then maybe Liz
Oh yeah, that would
with
be
her
good.
sighting.
That would be
Yeah.
cool. That would be a good one. All right, cool. Figuring it out as we
Cool.
go.
Yeah.
Such a weird world out there.
Super weird, and it always gets weirder.
Yeah. All right, Big P. Well, I love you and
Yeah, love you too.
ciao for now.
Ciao, ciao.
Bye.